a message on the state of the nation on this occasion for the penultimate time. I have one more still to give. In accordance with protocol and convention, it is good to see that First Lady Rebecca Akufo Addo, Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia, Second Lady Samira Bawumia, the spouse of Mr. Speaker Alice Ajua Jonas, Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu Pompepra, the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufo Dampare, and service chiefs are all present, as are the Dean and members of the Diplomatic Corps. Mr. Speaker, the House is also duly honored by the welcome attendance of the former President of the Republic, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and former First Lady, Her Excellency Nana Konadu Agyemang Rawlings. Mr. Speaker, I'm glad to be able to report that the entire territory that makes up our nation is safe, secure, and under the control of the government and people of Ghana. This might sound like a pedestrian statement with which to start a message on the state of the nation. Unfortunately, far from it being an everyday truism, this is no longer a statement or claim that can be easily made in these times in the neighborhood in which we are. West Africa is under threat of terrorism and violent extremism, rapidly spreading southwards from the Sahel to coastal West Africa. We can no longer take the territorial integrity of our countries for granted. Indeed, many of our neighbors have already fallen victim and lost large portions of their territories to extremist groups. And Ghana, by the grace of the Almighty, is the only coastal state along the Gulf of Guinea that has so far not recorded a terrorist attack. The Speaker, the peace and security we have in our country has not happened by chance. It has taken deliberate policy and planning on the part of government and a lot of hard work and dedication on the part of our security services to keep our country safe and secure. I might add that it has also meant that we've had to spend a lot of money that would have otherwise have been available to spend on many of our development needs. But I believe we're all agreed that the primary responsibility of the state towards its citizens is to provide and guarantee peace and security, and we're doing just that. Since we came into office, we've ensured a significant expansion of the armed forces and all the other security agencies. We're paying diligent attention to their welfare as well. The accommodation and physical environment generally of the security agencies are being improved. We've quickened the pace of the retooling and equipping of the security agencies to ensure readiness towards the emerging security threats. For the majority of us, in our everyday activities, it is the security of our streets and homes and communities that concern us most. We want our children and grandchildren to grow up in a safe atmosphere, and the Ghana Police Service played the lead role in this. Again, government has performed most creditably. The police are much better equipped than they have ever been, and their increased visibility on the streets goes a long way to reassure the community. The changing image of the police is perhaps best exemplified by the dramatic facelift they have given to the frontage of the police headquarters on the Ring Road in Accra. It is beautiful, and I recommend it to all institutions and indeed households. Whilst we're spending time, money, and energy and lives keeping the country safe from external dangers, I must add that it is a matter of great concern that we continue to have so many chieftaincy and land disputes around the country, which tend to be breeding grounds for internal tensions and destabilization. Mr. Speaker, I must make special mention of the troubles in Boko. The tragedy is not only that a thriving and dynamic town is being reduced to a wasteland of destruction and distrust. We're spending money and energy that would have been better spent on development needs of Boko, providing security to keep brothers and sisters from killing each other. Mr. Speaker, what should concern all of us, and not just the people of Boko, is that in its current state, Boko is an alluring magnet to mischief makers and extremists operating a few kilometers away from the border. In a bid to find a lasting solution to the conflict, government has in the past year undertaken a number of measures, including the establishment of a special Boko task force and the intensification of engagements with the factions for the resolution of the chieftaincy dispute. On the recommendation of the Upper East Regional and National Security Councils, 4 radio stations that have been broadcasting incendiary language and propagating hate speech have been shut down by the National Communications Authority. The Chief Justice, for her part, has also recently established specialized courts in Accra and in Kumasi to deal expeditiously with criminal matters emanating from the Boko conflict. Government is determined to do all it can to ensure that there's security in every inch of the territory of our country. But it is also very much up to the citizens to help create the needed atmosphere. And I'm thus appealing to all citizens, all Ghanaians, to take the See Something, Say Something campaign of the Ministry of National Security very seriously. There is indeed, Mr. Speaker, a state of palpable anxiety and tension in every corner of West Africa, raising the specter of regional instability, which we thought had been banished. Unconstitutional changes in government in parts of Africa, especially in West Africa, through a series of coups d'etats and military interventions in governance, testify to an unfortunate democratic regression in the region. It is in the interest of democratic growth that this development is reversed as soon as possible, and we in Ghana continue to give maximum support to ECOWAS, the regional body of West Africa, and the AU, Africa's continental organization, in their efforts to restore democratic institutions in the affected nations. We must help stem the tide of this unwelcome evolution and help entrench democracy in West Africa. We believe also that a reform of the global governance architecture, such as the Security Council of the United Nations, to make it more representative and accountable, will help strengthen global peace and stability, and thereby help consolidate democratic rule around the world. Mr. Speaker, we in Ghana have had our fair share of political instability and experimentation about how we should govern ourselves. There might be new names being ascribed to some of the supposed new ideas being canvassed by some today. But I dare say on close examination, we will discover that they are not new. We have tried them here, and they have failed. We know about all-powerful, cannot-be-questioned messiahs. We know about liberators, and we know about redeemers and deities in military uniform. It might sound new to some, but those of us who have been around for a while have heard the argument made passionately that democracy was not a suitable form of government if we wanted rapid development. It is a tired argument that was regularly used by apologists for coup d'etats. It's also not new to have political parties and politics in general being denigrated. Indeed, there used to be national campaigns of fear waged against politics and political parties. It took time, and it took long battles, but in the end, the consensus did emerge, and we opted for a multi-party democratic form of government under the Constitution which ushered in the Fourth Republic. Mr. Speaker, it is not a perfect document. Constitutions do not ever pretend to be, but it has served us well these past 32 years, considering where we have come from. It is a sacred document that should not be tampered with lightly. But I hasten to add, our Constitution did not descend from heaven. We Ghanaians drew it up to serve our needs, and we can amend it to suit our changing needs and circumstances. We should work towards finding a consensus on the changes that the majority of Ghanaians want made to the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, democracies are founded on elections, and the holding of free and credible elections ensure that people have confidence in the government that emerges at the end of the process. The honorable members of this House, who are at the center of it all, know more than the rest of us that this is an election year. The increased decibel level in all communications will ensure that even the most politically uninterested person among us would know that on December 7th, we shall be going to the polls to elect a new president and new members of parliament. A lot of the responsibility lies on the Electoral Commission to put the organization in place that will ensure that we have credible elections. Government is doing its part to make the work of the Electoral Commission go smoothly. A lot of responsibility lies on the political parties as well, and I hope that the parties recognize that their credibility is also on the line, especially with some people wanting to undermine the multi-party democratic system of government. It is up to the parties to demonstrate that competitive elections are an honorable, character-enhancing experience, and that at the end of the process, the loser will congratulate the winner, and the world does not come to an end because an election has been lost. There is nothing inherently dirty or corrupt about politics, and nothing about elections that should generate violence. We who are in politics, and we who are members of political parties, owe it to ourselves, the institutions we claim to belong to, and above all, we owe it to Ghana and the people of Ghana to make politics and elections the serious and joyful phenomenon they should be. In discharging their responsibility, I urge the Electoral Commission to work with the political parties to iron out whatever problems there might be. And I'm happy that the Electoral Commission, after engaging the parties, has shelved plans to change the 7th December date. Politics, after all, has been described as the art of the possible. And if that is what we are engaged in, it should not be beyond us to resolve the problems that come up and concentrate on working to build the happy and prosperous country we want. Government, on its part, will do what is expected of it to make sure that the reputation of Ghana is not damaged, and the free will of the people is manifested at the end of the electoral process. And I want to reassure the people of Ghana that I'll do everything in my power to help ensure the conduct of transparent, free, and fair elections on 7th December. I have confidence in the security services to ensure that those who might want to cause havoc or any kind of mischief to disrupt the electoral process will have no room to operate. Mr. Speaker, there are amongst us those who, for ideological or other unstated reasons, have never accepted multi-party democracy and therefore take every opportunity to portray the governance efforts in the most disparaging manner. There are also those amongst us who consider the rough and tumble of politics to be beneath them and will not want their sainted images to be soiled by what they term the dirt of politics. Mr. Speaker, we can and we should continuously improve upon the performance of the institutions that hold the state together. But nobody should undermine the integrity of the arms of government for parochial reasons. There is definitely much room for improvement in the workings of the executive arm of government, the judiciary, and our parliament. Even those who have had parliaments as part of their governance systems for hundreds of years still make mistakes and sometimes get things alarmingly wrong. It would be surprising if our 31-year-old parliament did not get things wrong sometimes. This august house, which holds so many fond memories for me of my personal political journey, does not always measure up to the expectations of the people, or even sometimes of its own members. There's a lot of anxiety currently about how our MPs get elected. There's anxiety about the rapid turnover of members in the House and the loss of institutional memory. There's a lot of anxiety about some of the procedures in the House. We will not all agree with everything that the Parliament does. And I dare say, Mr. Speaker, that I do not agree with everything that goes on in here. But that is the beauty of what we as a people are trying to do in our governance structure. Mr. Speaker, the President and his appointees are not universally loved. It would be strange and unproductive if they were. It is probably worthwhile making what I consider to be important observations at this stage on some of the issues in our public discourse in the lead up to the elections for a new president. Under the Constitution, the executive power of the state is vested in the President of the Republic. He or she is the executive. There's no ambiguity about where the buck stops when it comes to responsibility for what happens in the government. It stops with the President. He or she has ultimate responsibility. It would be an unwise president that would pretend to have all the answers and refuse the advice of his officials. But the fact remains that the President holds the executive power. The cabinet, the ministers of state, all act ultimately in an advisory manner. Of course, the member of the government might take an idea, be it generated by the President or the official or a committee, and turn it into a huge success, and the honors will be claimed or shared where public perception falls. But ultimately, the President is responsible and therefore takes the credit or the blame for whatever happens in his or her government. Mr. Speaker, let me make a second point. The programs that come from the executive benefit from the rigorous public examination and debates to which they are subjected. We all now take for granted and sometimes even bemoan the vigorous media and civil society organization scrutiny that characterize public discourse. It gives me quite satisfaction and great pride to hear young Ghanaians today who believe that criticizing the President of the Republic and challenging government proposals are normal, regular activities. Some of the young people listen with incredulity when they hear about a Ghana that was once without private radio stations, and people had to tune into foreign stations to hear critical and opposition voices. Today, there are some 550 radio stations in operation in this country. In spite of all its shortcomings and difficulties, the people of Ghana have shown admirable commitment to multi-party democracy and have not fallen for the instigations to resort to the violent overthrow of an elected government. The past 32 years of the Fourth Republic have witnessed the most sustained period of stability and economic growth in our country. And we should be proud of what we have achieved and seek to protect and build on it. And that is why the theme for the 67th Independence Anniversary celebration on 6th March in Koforidua is Our Democracy, Our Pride. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to report on the progress we're making in the administration of justice. This past year, a total of 76 judges and magistrates were appointed. They comprise the new Chief Justice, 2 new Justices of the Supreme Court, 23 new High Court judges, 29 Circuit Court judges, and 21 new magistrates. 262 staff were recruited to address some of the human resource gaps created because of the newly established courts throughout the country. In January 2024, 3 additional justices have been appointed to the Supreme Court to replace 3 justices who have retired from the court. We've made unprecedented progress in the provision of court buildings and residences for judges around the country. In 2020, government set out to construct 120 courthouses with residential facilities nationwide. As of 31st January 2024, 67 courthouses have been successfully inaugurated and are in use at various sites around the country. 12 completed projects have been slated for inauguration by the end of this month of February 2024. The remaining 21 projects are at various stages of completion and are expected to be completed and inaugurated before May 2024. In addition, 121 residential units have been constructed for judges throughout the country. Further, 20 fully furnished 4-bedroom units, together with social amenities, have been constructed for justices of the Court of Appeal in Kumasi. The project is not yet complete, but we have done enough to be able to say that we have resolved the problem of the disgraceful state of court buildings. The attention now is to the digitalization process of the courts to modernize the entire system. The Judicial Service has undertaken a digitalization initiative to modernize legal operations and foster greater access to justice. A virtual court system was introduced during the COVID-19 pandemic to ensure the continuity of business. The virtual court system was also rolled out to 17 courts, then subsequently to 19 high courts for the smooth hearing of court cases. By the end of December 2023, one development trajectory we were on. I'm proud that in spite of the dramatic financial crisis that we encountered in 2021, whose worst effects became manifest in 2022. The transformative measures we introduced in the first 4 years of office make it possible to showcase an impressive array of developmental projects across the length and breadth of the country. I do not intend to go through the long, even if interesting process of enumerating the projects the Akufo Addo government has undertaken since coming into office, their location, and what stage of completion they are in. Mr. Speaker, with the best will in the world, there simply will not be the time to do that, even if we spend all day here. It will be recalled that last year, during the message on the state of the nation, faced with a similar problem about road projects, I came to the House armed with a fat book that had the details of the road projects around the country, and all honorable members were given copies to go through at their own leisure. I haven't had anybody point out one. This year, we're taking things to a higher level. This government, after all, is the digitalization government. And the man who has led the entire digitalization process these past 7 years my indefatigable Vice President, Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, Dr. Digitalization, the MPP's excellent presidential candidate for the 2024 election, is coming out with what will allow everyone and everybody and anyone to check on every project being undertaken by the government without having to listen to the President's message on the state of the nation. We are calling it the Performance Tracker. You can check and satisfy yourself about the status of the projects and their location. And you could stop by and make a physical inspection if you were so minded. Mr. Speaker, if you want to check on roads, classroom blocks or chip compounds or Agenda 111 hospitals, or bridges, or science laboratories, or water projects or sanitation projects, or landing sites and harbors, and other infrastructural projects, or whatever this government use your tax money to execute, the key to your query is right there on your phone. Mr. Speaker, the Performance Tracker will be formally launched in March, and I'm offering it as the device which will help bring accountability into your hands. With the Performance Tracker, we can be sure that never again will pictures of an artist's impression be offered as projects that have been completed. $42 million trees have been planted over the last 3 years under the Green Ghana project, and some 690,000 hectares of degraded forests have been cultivated between 2017 and 2022 under the Ghana Forest Plantation Strategy. Mr. Speaker, the main cornerstone of our move towards the industrial transformation of Ghana is the One District, One Factory policy, this government's iconic flagship initiative. It demonstrates how government can stimulate and incentivize the private sector to expand and diversify manufacturing across the country by harnessing locally available raw materials. It is significant to note that within the relatively short span of 6 years, government has directly intervened to stimulate interest in and support many private sector business promoters to make significant investments in manufacturing under the One District, One Factory program. Mr. Speaker, this has led to the development of 321 IDF 1D1F projects consisting of 211 new medium to large-scale factories and the conscious enabling of 110 existing companies to inject significant capital investments into the expansion of production facilities and diversification of products. These business promoters have so far invested in 142 districts across the country, across all 16 regions, and achieving 54% district coverage. The aspiration is to bring a 1D1F project to every district. Speaker, within this period, some 170,000 jobs have been created under the novel ID 1D1F program by companies in operation. The Speaker, government approved a number of incentives, including duty exemptions to support the implementation of the 1D1F program. In 2019 and 2020, 37 1D1F companies were granted exemptions approval by this august House. However, from 2021 to date, no exemptions have been granted. Mr. Speaker, I urge the House to consider and approve all the outstanding exemption applications as a matter of urgency. To send positive signals to the business community. The exemptions law that you have passed provides for such exemptions under existing laws. To speak of the other initiative aimed at stimulating industrial growth that we have been actively promoting is automotive assembly and component manufacturing. It is universally recognized as a key strategic sector for stimulating industrial transformation. The comprehensive automotive development policy launched by government in August 2019 has undoubtedly been the catalyst that has attracted a record number of 12 original equipment manufacturers, including Volkswagen, Toyota, Suzuki, Nissan, Peugeot, Kia, Hyundai, Honda, to set up assembly plants and produce a range of models here in Ghana. The Speaker, it is noteworthy that these investments have been accompanied with complementary initiatives to build the necessary engineering and technical skills in Ghana. Toyota Ghana has partnered the School of Engineering Sciences of the University of Ghana to establish and operate a modern auto engineering training center for engineering students and the industry to acquire applied auto engineering training. Similarly, Kia Motor Company of Korea has upgraded the Rana Motors West African vehicle assembly with state-of-the-art equipment for training of auto repair and maintenance technicians, including repair and maintenance of electric vehicles. Mr. Speaker, to spur on industrialization, we're implementing the 4-project agenda of the Ghana Integrated Aluminum Development Corporation, GhanaDEC, with projects 1 and 2 having already taken off. And last month, we signed an agreement for the implementation of Project 3. Mr. Speaker, we will lay before this august House, at this first meeting of this session of Parliament, a legislative instrument to prohibit the export of bauxite in its raw state. We're also in the concluding phase of discussions for the establishment of a $450 million United dollar refinery to refine the manganese we produce. Mr. Speaker, we have all long acknowledged that trade between African countries must increase if we are to make any headway with our dreams of prosperity on the continent. I'm happy to report that the setting up of the AFCFTA, with headquarters here in Ghana, is beginning to show positive results. Ghana is one of the 7 countries selected to participate in the Guided Trade Initiative, GTI, of the AFCFTA Secretariat. And this has enabled us to make significant inroads into East Africa, notably Kenya and Tanzania. Over 700 AFCFTA certified products from Ghana, like cosmetics, processed foods, beverages, coconut oil, shea butter, and garments, have been targeted at the AFCFTA market under the Guided Trade Initiative. I'd like to make special mention of Casapreco Company Limited, one of our iconic logo beverage manufacturers, which has commenced exports to the Kenyan market. It is the fact worth celebrating that many other Ghanaian companies now have set their horizons way beyond the shores of our country and see the entire African continent as the market to aim at. Mr. Speaker, in speaking about the workspace and jobs, our thoughts inevitably turn to young people and, for some people, to the formal sector and formal sector jobs. We often forget that formal sector employees form only a small part of the working population. This small percentage of the working population tends to be the ones that are covered by pension schemes, and unfortunately, the majority of workers in the country do not have any pension schemes. To that extent, in May last year, SNET launched a self-employed enrollment drive, SEED, an initiative which seeks to improve coverage and increase the contributor base of the SNET scheme. Since the launch of the SNED initiative, some 600,000 self-employed persons have been enrolled onto the program and now have some form of Social Security cover. Effective 1st January 2024, all pensioners on the SNED pension payroll as of 31st December 2023 have had their monthly pensions increased by 15%. This translates to 10.05% of effective increase for the highest earning pensioners and 36.37% effective increase for the lowest earning pensioners. The 15% indexation rate will result in an additional expenditure of 697 million cedis. The total benefit expenditure for government under the SNED scheme alone is projected to increase from 5.4 billion cedis in 2023 to 7 billion cedis in 2024. Mr. Speaker, I believe we can say with certainty that in the tourism sector, Ghana is finally realizing her long-promised potential. Starting from the events and excitement of the year of return in 2019, Ghana has truly become an attractive tourist destination, with visitors' numbers increasing every year. December in G8 is now an established and increasingly attractive phenomenon, which brings visitors to our country in the month of December and has changed the events calendar around the Christmas holiday season in Accra and many other towns. Mr. Speaker, for the first time since the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park was constructed in 1992, government has undertaken a full modernization rehabilitation of the facility. Since the commissioning of the modernized park in July 2023, the number of domestic and international visitors has risen dramatically. A national newspaper reporting on activities at the revamped park had a screaming headline which said, "Akufo Addo resurrects Nkrumah." That gave me pause for a moment, but on reflection, I decided I would accept it, be it a compliment or criticism or in addition to the collection of sayings by elders. Whatever it is, since the commissioning, There have been 208,557 domestic and international visitors to the park between 14th July and 31st December 2023. Mr. Speaker, compare that, if you may, with the best performance until then, which was in the year of return in 2019, when there were 126,190 visitors in the year. Other facilities are being upgraded, and it's good to know that the private sector is showing interest in getting into the development of tourist attractive sites. Mr. Speaker, the National Museum Gallery, which had been closed down since 2015, has also been fully refurbished. It attracted over 35 visitors in 2023, and I'm particularly pleased the school children form a good part of the visitors to these sites. The first ever Kente Museum, aimed at preserving the cultural heritage in Ghana, has been built at Bunwe in the Ashanti region and was recently commissioned by the Second Lady. Preparatory works and designs for the construction of the Heroes Park, a museum to commemorate the founding fathers of Ghana, the Big Six, J.B. Dankwa, Emmanuel Obeche Bilamche, Edward Akufo Addo, Ebenezer Akwaje, William Uforiatta, Kwame Nkrumah, were completed in December 2023, and construction will commence very soon. Mr. Speaker, government through the National Film Authority is committed to supporting the production of world-class content and films, as well as increasing the cinema infrastructure in Ghana and by extension on the continent. To this end, a favorable fiscal tax regime for cinema projects, including income tax and VAT incentives, import duty exemptions on film production equipment, 20% tax rebate for strategic film productions and film financing reliefs, is being elaborated by cabinet, which will be outdoored very soon and should provide another tangible reason for the choice of Ghana as a film production country. Mr. Speaker, in line with government's commitment to ensure gender equality, the revised National Gender Policy and the Affirmative Action Bill were approved by Cabinet in October 2023. The Affirmative Action Bill is currently before Parliament for consideration and approval, and we count on the support of members of Parliament for speedy passage of the bill. The Ghana Enterprise Agency, GEA, is implementing an Only Women Support Program where micro, small, and medium enterprises owned by women with the potential of scaling up their operations, increasing sales, and creating sustainable jobs will receive liquidity support. The GEA is also implementing the Youth Start Program, a youth empowerment program which recently disbursed 100 million cedis to some 3,000 youth beneficiaries to upscale their businesses. Mr. Speaker, we're also implementing some interventions directed at providing support for persons with disabilities. In June last year, a significant boost was given to micro, small, and medium enterprises owned by persons with disabilities when government launched a 12 million CD PWD Enterprise Support Program. This grant support program, under the Ghana Transformative Project, is being funded with the support of the World Bank. Again, the Youth Employment Agency has initiated a groundbreaking employment drive targeting 282 persons with disabilities who used to work at poll booths. Speaker, let me now turn to football, a sport that is dear to the hearts of all Ghanaians. So I disclose no state secret if I state that I am myself an ardent football enthusiast and once played in the University of Ghana team with my friend, the late President John Evans Atta Mills, Fifi to me. Throughout the years, the national team, the Black Stars, has held a special place in the affection of Ghanaians. They lifted up our spirits as they dominated Africa and won 4 continental trophies. They have at other times broken our hearts, but it was not until 2006 that the Black Stars finally broke through to the world stage when they qualified for the World Cup for the first time. You will remember that we rose up as one in our support, and they did not disappoint. Then came the spectacular South Africa 2010 World Cup and its drama, when we almost became the first African side to reach the semifinals of the World Cup. It is fair to say that since the sad events of Brazil 2014, many Ghanaians have been left disappointed by some of the recent results of the Black Stars. Their various attempts have been made to revive the fortunes of the national team and rebuild the enthusiasm of the people with varying degrees of success. The recent AFCON in Côte d'Ivoire was probably the nadir of the performance of Black Stars and has left the nation saddened. However, I am quite certain that the young men and the technical handlers would themselves have wanted to make our nation proud. And I believe that the captain, Andre Dede Ayew, meant every word when he rendered heartfelt apologies on behalf of his teammates to all Ghanaians for the team's early exit. Mr. Speaker, I believe it is time for us to take a long-term, far-sighted approach to correct what has gone wrong. It is time to return to scouting, grooming, and developing talent at the grassroots level under a presidential policy on football that I intend to unveil very soon. The School Sports Department of the Ministry of Education will work hand in hand with the Ministry of Youth and Sports in collaboration and synergy with the Ghana Football Association to build district, regional, and national juvenile teams for both girls and boys. The more than 150 AstroTurf pitches constructed throughout the country under this administration provide the foundational facilities to make a start as we strive to provide more of them. We should see a steady progression of talent up the ladder from the junior juvenile teams to the senior sides based on merit and nothing else. A similar approach has been tried before under the 5-year football development plan led by the late Ben Kofi, initiated under the MPP administration of President J. Akufo. It was under this plan that talents such as Michael Essien, Sule Muntari, John Mensah, Derek Boateng, and later Asamoah Gyan and Stephen Appiah were discovered and nurtured. The results became evident to us and the world. It takes time, dedication, and patience. We cannot harvest where we have not planted and irrigated. I have no doubt at all that the Black Stars will rise and make us proud again. Mr. Speaker, the senior women's team, the Black Queens, who do not get half the attention the Black Stars get, have been performing quite creditably. They've gone for 10 matches without any loss until last December, and then when they lost narrowly to Namibia in the qualifying ground for the 2024 Women's African Cup of Nations. Even though they lost narrowly to Zambia in the first leg of the qualifiers for the 2024 Olympic Games, let us wish them well in the second leg to be played in Lusaka tomorrow. I hope they give us something to cheer about. Mr. Speaker, it gives me great pleasure to report that all the preparations are ready for Ghana to welcome sportsmen and women from around the continent to participate in the 13th edition of the African Games. It seems incredible, but this is the first time that Ghana will be hosting these games. It has taken a lot of courage to have persisted with the decision to host the games, especially when our financial problem came in the midst of the preparations. But I am glad we went ahead. The preparations are all complete, and I was excited and very pleased with what I saw at Bortema when I went to commission the Games Village some 2 weeks ago. We have high-class sporting facilities which will serve us well long after the Games are over. Some of the events will take place at the University of Ghana Sports Stadium. It is worth noting that this is a facility started under former President J. Akufo and was abandoned by successor governments. I'm extremely proud that this project has been finished under my stewardship, not just because of the Games, but also because it has taken 75 years of existence for Legon, Ghana's premier university, to have a sports stadium. I urge all Ghanaians to make our visitors welcome and to patronize the games and cheer on the participants. Mr. Speaker, this is the 7th time that I've appeared before this House as President to give an accounting of the state of our nation. Luckily for me, I know my way around the place, having spent 12 memorable years here as a member of Parliament. And therefore, even on the few occasions the sections of the House did not want to make me welcome, I was still able to manage. I have one more scheduled date with the House when I will be here to give an accounting of my time in office. By that time, my successor would have been elected. And we will be getting ready for the swearing-in ceremony. The elections will be held peacefully, and the candidate with credibility to take us on to a higher level will win. Let me wish all of us well in the elections on 7th December. Before then, a number of important tasks lie ahead of us, one of which will be commissioning the Nana Adjumani Prempeh I International Airport in Kumasi, and naming the recently commissioned airport in Tamale, the Yakubu Tali International Airport of Tamale. Mr. Speaker, we stumbled, but we are rising again. We were bruised, but we are healing. We have recovered our footing. We have dusted ourselves off, and now we face tomorrow with confidence. Every day we pray and hope that adversity may spare our families, our communities, and our dear nation. But should we be confronted by misfortune, we must face it like people with a proud history who fight and do not flee. Yenim Kom, Yenim Jani. That is the Ghanaian spirit. That is our armor and our shield. This is our ethos. Let us believe in Ghana. I believe in Ghana. And may God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make her great and strong. I thank you for your attention.